our great country that we love, Kenya. Asanteni sana. Na Mungu awabariki.
Naomba kwa heshima sote tusimame kwa wimbo wa taifa. Kwa heshima sote tusimame kwa wimbo wa taifa. Mheshimiwa Rais, niombe kwa heshima tuweze kusubiri tupewe itifaki ya kufumukana mahali hapa. Nitaomba kuomba sasa kuwaelekeza viongozi kutulia kwenye jukwaa rasmi ili tuweze kuelekezwa. Nitaomba sote sasa tuwe watulivu ili tuweze kumpisha msafara wa Mheshimiwa Daktari William Ruto, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya na Amiri Jeshi Mkuu wa Majeshi ya Ulinzi, Mama Taifa Mama Rachel, wakisindikishwa na Mkuu wa Majeshi ya Ulinzi. Nitaomba sasa msafara wa Mheshimiwa Rais kuweza kuletwa, tukimshukuru kwa kushiriki nasi siku ya leo katika sherehe ya Mashujaa hapa kwenye eneo gatuzi la Kwale. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais, wewe ni shujaa. Tutatulia tuweze kuelekezwa kwa taratibu. Anaondoka Mheshimiwa Rais Daktari William Ruto, Mama Taifa. Atasindikishwa na Mkuu wa Majeshi ya Ulinzi. Niombe.
And there you have it, live pictures from Kwale Stadium at the tail end of this very auspicious event, all to do with the Mashujaa Day celebrations that were being hosted at County 002. President William Ruto is currently exiting Kwale Stadium. Of course, we understand that other leaders, including the president, will be heading to the newly established state lodge right here in Kwale County that has been upgraded from the regional commissioner's residence to a mini state lodge, where they'll have the events that will be going on right after these celebrations. Of course, we've seen various leaders, most notably the Deputy President nominee, Professor Kithure Kindiki, who was in attendance. Equally, he was seated right next to Mama Rachel Ruto, right after President William Ruto. And perhaps that seating position is symbolic of the fact that the executive has moved on right after the embattled Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was impeached by Parliament, even though he sought court orders to stop the swearing in of Professor Kithure Kindiki as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And just as you've heard from President William Ruto, he touched on various issues, key among them the affordable housing program that is quite instrumental under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, better known as Better. He highlighted that various projects are ongoing across the country, including in Kwale County, where Kwale Governor Fatuma Achani mentioned that there is a project already ongoing where the Kwale County government has donated up to 50 up to 50 acres in order to implement that affordable housing project in Kwale County. The president equally touched on healthcare, on agriculture, assuring farmers that the fertilizer will be distributed in a timely manner, equally highlighting that the price of fertilizer will remain at 2,500 Kenya shillings, highlighting the importance of food security in the country, thus enabling our farmers to reap what they sow. That's what we highlighted from President William Ruto, who touched on, as I mentioned, affordable housing. We saw the PS for Housing, Charles Hinga, actually called President William Ruto to the stage to give a check of up to 720 million to Jua Kali artisans from Kibra who have been contracted under the housing program. We definitely heard from Governor Chani, as I mentioned, who highlighted that the county has donated up to 50 acres of land for the affordable housing project. They equally highlighted the various projects that have been implemented courtesy of this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations hosted in Kwale County. Some of these projects include the Kwale Stadium, which is newly renovated and completed as well, courtesy of efforts from the county government of Kwale and the national government as well. Upgrading of various roads. Mind you, if you've ever been to this particular area in Kwale County, the roads right now are totally tarmacked, perhaps showing the fruits of devolving these celebrations as it brings about infrastructural development wherever it goes. Remember, last year it was in Kericho County. This time round, it's in Kwale County. We wait to see where the next celebrations will be held. But according to the other leaders who spoke, it's proper to note that the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Foreign Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi highlighted how the government is trying to move forward, but perhaps it was a slip of the tongue or maybe just going through the program. Musalia Mudavadi acknowledged the presence of Professor Kithure Kindiki, mentioning him as the DP nominee. So that's definitely a highlight, even though the embattled DP Rigathi Gachagua was a no-show in this particular event. Remember, he did tweet urging Kenyans to celebrate Mashujaa Day peacefully wherever they are, even though he was a no-show at Kwale Stadium. Remember earlier on, as I mentioned, the seating arrangement. The president was seated right next to the First Lady, and thereafter Professor Kithure Kindiki was seated. Naturally, that's where a deputy president should sit, right next to the president on the right-hand side. Right after First Lady, it was the deputy president nominee, including other leaders who are in attendance. We've seen the presence of the speakers of parliament. I'm talking about the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, the Senate Speaker, Amason Kingi, who was equally in attendance, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, an array of leaders, including the governors, especially those from the coastal counties. Abdul Swamad Nasir was present during the celebrations. We equally saw Kilifi Governor Gideon Mungaro, who was equally present during the celebrations, including other leaders. As I mentioned earlier, they will be heading out towards the mini state lodge that has recently been renovated in a bid to perhaps highlight how the celebrations were, if there was success, and equally exchange a few ideas. That's the very latest right here. But remember, it's been a week of heavy political exchanges. Bearing in mind the embattled Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been impeached not too long ago. And of course, he didn't go down without a fight. We saw him appear at the Senate, at the National Assembly earlier, until that point where he fell sick and was a no-show at Parliament. He's equally a no-show here today. But remember, according to his doctors, led by Dr. Gekonyo, they mentioned that the deputy president will be held to at least recuperate and rest as they monitor his situation for at least up to 72 hours. So 72 hours from Thursday, that falls today. So we definitely are monitoring what the embattled Rigathi Gachagua will be saying, either through his social media platforms and some of his men on the ground as well. That's what has transpired right here at Kwale Stadium. And as always, as KTN News, we keep our ear to the ground to bring you up to speed with the very latest in terms of news making headlines. It's been a successful couple of days at Kwale Stadium in Kwale County. Thank you so much for tuning in and making this particular production a success. My name is Jesse Rogers. We'll leave you with these pictures.
Ustawi wa kiuchumi wa kaunti hii ya Kwale unatambua mashujaa ambao hawajatambuliwa, wakiwemo wakulima, wachimbaji madini na wajasiriamali wanaofanya kazi kwa bidii kila siku kuchangia uchumi wa Kenya. Tunaposherehekea sikukuu ya mashujaa